I would like to invite Mr. Mehmet Ali Özçobanlar to have his speech about crisis in Syria and its effect on European Union-Turkish relations.
I believe that as His Excellency Turkish Ambassador has mentioned about some crisis in Syria, that I will go through much more deeper in the crisis what we are having right now right next to Turkey. Examining the history of the world, one cannot but observe that the movement towards a peaceful settlement of regional disagreements and conflicts, when it exists, is a long and arduous struggle. Most often, such conflicts result the forced dislodgement of people from the place where they were born and to the separation of families. They deprive innocent people of their livelihood, if not their life. Although the pictures in the slide are separated by more than 75 years, in reality, they are very similar to each other. What we see is not just a movement of people going somewhere. This photograph contains fear. It contains suffering and desperation. But also, they contain hope of people who have lost everything. On the left, we see Syrian refugees fleeing from their homeland, seeking a safe place, struggling for survival. On the right, we see Polish refugees who during World War II fled to Iran for safety. The only differences between those two groups is the colors of the pictures. Polish refugees took long, difficult road through the then Soviet Union and walked by the Caspian Sea to seek safety in Persia. They walked hundreds of kilometers to arrive in a safe place with their families. Equally long and difficult is the road of the Syrian refugees. On the right, we see, next one, yeah. On the right, actually, we see the road of the Syrian refugees, what they followed to have a safe place to move. As we see on the upper part, that the road of the Polish refugees in the Second World War, they followed to seek a safe place in Middle East. Human migration can occur for any kind of economical, social, political, or environmental reasons. It's not easy to forget the street where you played football, to not go to the same kiosk where you used to buy a chocolate, or to not remember the people around your home. It's hard to forget all these at once and forever. You do not immigrate just from one place, but you also immigrate from your memories, which can be good or bad. Emil Landau, a 15-year-old Polish refugee, was one of the thousands who moved for a new life to the Middle East. In August 1942, he wrote in his diary, difficult to transmit in writing, the first impression, each one feels as if he is born again, has come to a place out of this world. Everything seems good and beautiful. Everything smiles together with patience. After we are on the shore, everyone hugs everyone. Everyone is awed by the look of luxury stores, where one can get anything. Chocolate and other Western sweets. And most importantly, bread and buns made of white flour. War forces people to move from their homeland. World War II was the cause that forced some intellectual Polish people to move from Poland to Turkey. Poland was one of the countries which suffered dramatically during World War II, from the very beginning. Jerzy Werdiowski, an aircraft engineer and director of the aeronautical experimental works in Poland, was one of the 35 intellectual Polish immigrants who came to Turkey. Turkey has been always a safe harbor for the people who are in need. Here in the slide, we can see the movement of people from other countries to Turkey. From the end of the 19th century till to the 21st century. Turkey has accepted a huge number of immigrants from Crimea. Also, 2.5 million people from Caucasia came to Turkey during World War I. The immigration from Georgia reached up to millions of people till 1921. From Azerbaijan, Albania, and Bosnia-Herzegovina, also there were people who immigrated to Turkey. In 19th century, some of 10,000 Poles immigrated to Turkey and created the Adampol nearby Istanbul. After the proclamation of the Republic of Turkey, the movement of people to Turkey still continued. From the countries Macedonia, former Yugoslavia, who were 305,000 people, from Bulgaria, 800,000 people, till 1981. Many came also from Romania, Kosovo, East Turkestan Republic. In 1979, when there was a revolution in Iran, Turkey accepted Azeri, Persian, and Kurdish immigrants from Iran. From Iraq came 500,000 immigrants came due to the conflict in 1988 in the region and also in 1991 in Gulf War. But most immigrants came from Syria. There were several massive movements from Syria to Turkey in 1945, in 1951, 1953, and 1967. Since the civil war occurred in Syria in 2011, more than 3 million Syrian refugees fled into Turkey. It is the worst humanitarian crisis of the last decades. Since the war began in Syria, more than 11 million people had to move from their homes. The war has killed almost 500,000 people. People had to decide either to stay and die or to flee in order to survive. According to the United Nations, 6.3 million Syrians are displaced till today. 5.2 million refugees went to the neighboring countries. More than 3 million of Syrian refugees have fled across the border into Turkey. People from Syria are the largest refugee population in the world. Turkey accepted the largest number of refugees from Syria. An exponential steady growth in the number of refugees can be seen in the graphic. In 2012, there were 100,000 refugees. In 2013, just a year after, this became 1.5 million refugees. And at the end of 2015, the number of refugees are tripled, and it was 4.5 million. Today, there are 5.2 million Syrian refugees. One should understand the concern of Turkey about the refugee crisis. From the point of demographic indicators in Turkey, we can see the movement of Syrian refugees inside the Turkey. Due to humanitarian reasons, Turkey allows the refugees to move freely in the country. Therefore, the refugees can decide themselves either to live in the camps or to go in another cities in Turkey. And here in the map you can see actually Istanbul is the highest amount of the refugees accepting Syrian refugees. And after that, the Gaziantep in East Anatolia, the city, and Hatay and Şanlıurfa, these are the cities over 200,000 refugees they accepted. The large number of refugees creates some anxiety in the people of Turkey and of the European countries. These are the results of my doctoral dissertation that I had got some highlighted points. We had asked the questions to Turkish and Greek participants for the comparison. This questionnaire is taken from United Kingdom and from the Eurofound data, and we made the analysis. And the analysis actually, it shows in the first, we asked the question, the immigrants are integrated in our society, and the answers of Turkish people were more concerning about that in this results. And the concern of Turkey finally has been shared by many other European countries when in the beginning of 2015. Turkey always asking to have a safe zone, but finally this safe zone idea had come to truth nowadays with the Astana talks. Many Syrians attempted the dangerous trip across the Mediterranean Sea from Turkey to Greece, and right after European Union decided to have some actions about this. The death of refugees in the Mediterranean from January 2014 until 2016 is shown in the graphics. That in 2014, 3,000 refugees were drowned and died, and 2015 is gradually higher, getting up. Most of the people, actually, 6,000 were drowned, and 194 refugees died from the cold, and 447 died from the hunger. The next. Actually, there were two ideas from the European Union what they wanted to decide to create. One is the Frontex. It is European Border and Coast Guard Agency, which to protect the border of European Union, and the other is creating the camps for the refugees. But there was a general feeling in the minds of people that we should protect the people, not the borders. Another idea for refugee also was creating the camps. Here you will see the camps actually. In Turkey we have 22 refugees camps, and in Greece also there are the camps which 62,000 people living, and in Turkey 260,000 refugees are living in the camps. And here we see asylums, when the refugees they ask to survive and live in the countries. And these are the positive asylum decisions per capita, per person in the countries. And we see Sweden and Malta is two countries as they accepted, and Poland is the last in this case. And here, who are the refugees they apply for asylum? 50% in the world, the refugees asking the asylum are Syrians, and 8% of them from Eritrea, and 7% are from Iraq. And here we had got the agreement between Turkey and the European Union. It was a statement agreement that European Union will support Turkey by 3 billion euros to giving the Turkey for the refugee help. But unfortunately, we had only 750 million euros from European Union as a support, not 3 billion euros. As we were talking about the previous speech, that was about the honor and promises. Unfortunately, the promises were not done. And today there is one important issue actually in Sochi. There will be a political decision about Syrian conflict and the Astana talks. The three countries which are really powerful in the region, Turkey, Iran and Russia, they decided to have sort of a de-escalated areas in Syria, inside Syria, where the refugees could go back and live. Since the beginning, actually, Turkey was asking this from the international arena. Finally, this is accepted, and Turkey has been, as a military source, creating a safe zone there. But unfortunately, PKK terrorist organization on Monday attacked Turkish soldiers in Syria, which we expect from the international arena to support Turkey and the other nations in these ideas to create the Syrians to live in Syria freely and democratically in their places. And as a conclusion, I would like to say that, of course, the deal has the responsibility for the both sides, the European Union and Turkey, who are involved in. The EU-Turkey statement provides that in exchange for visa-free travel agreement for Turkish citizens, but unfortunately there were some other extra asks from the Turkish nation, so therefore it didn't occur. And then the accession talks between European Union and Turkey, unfortunately these accession talks already freeze, but hopefully the European Union will decide for Turkish benefits in this case. And Europe, the history which has been shaped by migration for centuries, has come to point to take an action regarding the immigration problems in the continent. The civil war and instability in their own countries takes the immigrants in a crucial adventure decisions of life, either to live or to die. The migrants accepting countries as well are also facing the problems to live together with the people from other societies and other cultures which are shaped with different values and principles. EU has to continue to work more efficiently with its neighboring countries, and the collaboration in between the member states should be improved as well. For a common feature of EU, it has to build up once again the peaceful atmosphere beyond the borders of European Union and reassure the immigrants so they could build their confidence up. As a neighboring and candidate for full membership to the Union, Turkey's humanitarian and remarkable effort on refugees should be deeply understood by the countries. The destiny of the continent is involved to each country on it. It should never be forgotten that Turkey and the citizens of Turkey will continue to support its neighboring countries and the citizens. It has been like that many centuries, and it's going to be like that forever. Thank you for the listening.